seems that the inclement weather outside has affected our attendance. So good thing the things we got to vote on is later. And hopefully we'll get there. Kim's figuring that out for me now. Right, Kim? All right, so welcome to October. We've all got almost a full month under our belts. I'm starting to breathe a little bit easier, and I'm hoping that you are too now that the semester really feels like it's underway. So one of the things Erica and I and Kim decided to do was name tags. So if you recall the last meeting, we had a very long line of people signing in. And I believe we started around like 2:42. So that's 12 extra minutes we had to stay at the end, is how I look at it. So what we're gonna do is, you're gonna come in, you're gonna pick up a card, we're gonna do the voting members over there, non-voting liaisons over here, and then if you aren't either one of those, a sign-in sheet for those people. So as far as attendance is concerned, any tags left on the table, clearly they are absent, okay? Cooper, get a name tag. So that's kind of how we're going to do it, and it's really to just help save time and also to help me from periodically forgetting people's names, even though I know everybody's names, but sometimes I stumble. So all sorts of good things with that. Erica is on her way. She would like everyone to know she's going to be here momentarily. Thank you. So a few announcements before I turn it over to Dr. Scheit. Our Middle States monitoring report was submitted on time, and now we're just in a holding pattern and waiting to see how that goes. We're going to start our self-assessment in January, and we'll be working on building teams to start that work. But right now we're taking deep breaths of air because we're in and we're good. Open house is coming up. For those that don't know, I was reminded again on my way in, there's been a lot of signs walking into the college, driving towards the college, but it's October 16th at South, 4:30 to 6:30, the 17th at City, 4:30 to 6:30, and then we're trying something new this year with a Saturday open house at North Campus from 10 to 2 on the 19th of October. The Chancellor's Award for adjuncts and nominations for adjuncts is due on October 18th. So there is a link on the homepage. Let's see if I can pull that up. Hang on a second. Okay, so there it is right there under announcements. It's due on the 18th. So if you know any adjuncts in your departments or other departments that are doing an exceptional job, there's the link. I feel that sometimes we don't recognize them enough for the hard work that they do for our students. All right, let me go back to the Senate site. All right, and then one other thing I'd like to do is talk about something really awesome. Two of our senators just hit a major, major milestone in their careers at SUNY Erie Community College. They have 50 years of service and dedication to our students and the community. That's a combination of a century of service and dedication to our students. So I would like to congratulate Professor John Dana, Physics, and Professor Gregory Gillis, Construction Management, Civil Engineering, on everything you do. Poor John is on the Senate Executive Committee, and I kept it a secret from him and did not post it on the Senate site until about 10 minutes ago, so that it was a surprise. So thank you, gentlemen, for all that you do. You are an inspiration to all of us. All right, well, I don't really have anything else that can top that, so I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Scheit.
Good afternoon. The president wasn't able to be here today, so he suggested that I give an update with regard to the SUNY Guided Pathways work because last week was Institute 1. And just as a framework we received a small amount of money to support faculty and staff going to the institutes across 5 semesters. So this year, next year, and then the following fall. And there's 1 or 2 per semester across all of that time. The idea of delving deep each time into a different topic of guided pathways. So this was really the first introduction. And when we had to build our scope of work for that whopping $20,000, most of the money is, of course, to pay for the travel and the accommodation for a team of at least 5 people each time. And we're trying to pick in addition to the required folks who have to be there, we're trying to pick people strategically based on the topic of that institute. So that's going to happen across 2.5 years. And what I hear from that is this is not work that has to happen immediately. This is about work that we as a campus engage in over time in terms of working to serve our students better and better over time. But I did want to share with you, and so how we designed that, and I talked about this when I first got here when we were just voting to decide if we were going to be involved in this, is really we're going there and our team will collect the best practices or what did we learn and come back to campus and do a share out sort of a conversation so we can say, well, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're doing that matches that, maybe that needs a little more underscoring. Maybe we want to enhance that. Here's what we're not doing. Do we want to do that? Should we engage in that? So we can kind of just bring back the best practices that we learn about and think about it in our context. So what our whole scope of work was basically sending a team to each institute, and then upon the return, within that month when we come back, scheduling a campus-wide kind of conversation to share what we learned and have a conversation about that as it applies to us. And do we want to use any of this to tweak what we do? So you can see that we were there last Thursday and Friday, and that was at Finger Lakes Community College, and it will move different places over the 2.5 years. And so we're going to have those conversations basically around this time when Senate is not meeting. And I recognize that there are other meetings that happen on those times, but you can see the schedule. It's Tuesdays, 2:30 to 4 at each campus, and there's that schedule. And just to share with you a little bit about what we learned, one of the things they asked us to do was to create kind of a vision of what we were thinking about how guided pathways might shape our work. And one of the things, first of all, that we felt was guided pathways is a really bad name because it sounds like academic roadmaps, and that's all it is. In reality, what guided pathways is it's a collection of best practices that drive student success. From academic roadmaps to co-requisite remediation and all sorts of other best practices. So last week, the folks who went were President Hakoy, who, as required, me, as required, our campus co-leads, Andy Annecy was able to be there, Colleen was not able to be there, and then Dean Joanne Kohlmauer and Katie Marshall and Lori Rovnick. So we had a great team of kind of this introductory session, and the first thing they asked us to do was to build this kind of vision of sort of a mission statement for this conversation that'll happen over 2.5 years. And this is just a really rough statement, but what we wrote was, our learners should reflect that in the future, our learners should reflect that their SUNY Erie experience was transformative. We plan to identify and address their needs through college-wide initiatives focused on student success. These initiatives will enhance progress along the student life cycle. So really thinking about, well, what are these best practices and how can it help us help our students be more successful And the interesting thing, the rough takeaway, and you can come here to discuss more of it, was there was sort of an outline of here are the prototypical best practices that fall into the 4 pillars of guided pathways. And I put together, you will see these, some slides that'll help that conversation. And it's amazing how many of those initiatives we are already undertaking. And some of the work that we're undertaking that falls in here are the academic roadmaps. Katie Marshall is looking to utilize Career Coach, a software. Our math and English pathways are identified in here. Our investigation into our placement model, our advisement look, co-requisite remediation. Interestingly, in general studies, the first year course and the capstone course fall into this, this pathway. Starfish, early alerts and intrusive advising, outreach based on that, enhancing our communication with our students, our probation project, our Perkins-funded, we're calling it that health off-ramp advisor. Our assessment of student learning is important. The tutoring, face-to-face, online, and embedded mentors in tutoring falls into this. Our applied and international initiatives. All of those things, believe it or not, fall into these best practices. So the great thing that I came away was we're already doing, or at least endeavoring to build and enhance a lot of these guided pathways and best practices. So this may actually just be a holder to focus those works and be sure that we maintain them and bring them to fruition. So I'm really looking forward to the conversations on these 3 days, and then as we continue to learn more over these 2.5 years, to do the same sort of thing, bring it back, have a conversation, and see what how it informs our work. Okay, that's it for me. If there's any questions.
Does anyone have questions for Dr. Scheit?
Okay.
All right. So I'll be at all 3 of those open forums, and as well as various members of the teams as schedules permit. So we're hoping to have a great conversation with all of the different members of the college community that are going to come and attend, because it will affect all of us. And I'm looking forward to seeing people there. Jason?
I just wanted to ask, do you have to register for these? Or do you just show up?
Just show up.
Okay.
All right. Perfect. There it is. All right, she just walked in, but sorry, Joanne, you're up. Well, I think so. So we have the 3 board policies that we talked about last meeting. And just to jog everybody's memory, the policy on individual instruction and the resolution on academic standards both went to the Academic Standards Committee and were discussed at the last meeting. And the policy on general education assurance was also discussed at the last meeting. And
the policy on individualized instruction went to academic standards in our. Is that better? There we go. Okay. The policy on individualized instruction went to academic standards in September. There was a lot of discussion. The committee recommended that I make some of the changes that they recommended, send it back out to academic standards, review it. So it has to stay with us at least until our October meeting. We did do a lot of work on it, but we just didn't finish it yet. But we did tackle it, and we will hopefully finish it in our October meeting and then bring it back to you guys for November. The general education assurance policy, as far as I know, we did not tackle that in academic standards. I think that was going to Gen Ed.
yep.
And so maybe Erickson can give an update on that one.
Okay. Oh, Erickson?
The General Education Committee discussed this and, sorry, had an opportunity to make comments with regards to the General Education Assurance Policy. In essence, the one that we discussed and the one that's attached here is a reiteration that we are following the Middle States and SUNY general education requirements. So it's, as the title addresses, it's really more of a reaffirmation of something that we're already doing. So no real big comments were addressed with that.
Awesome. And then I put the wrong name for the other one, and it was transitional studies, the policy on transitional studies, and I believe that one went to academic standards.
We did not discuss it in our September academic standards meeting. Where is Jamie here?
No.
Does anybody? Paul, did we didn't tackle this one, did we? No. So I am going to say that I'm a little unsure of the state where that one is. I know there's a Senate task force on placement. But honestly, Colleen, I don't know where that one stands. Jamie was kind of spearheading that one, so I think we're gonna have to table that until we can give you an update on it. Hopefully, maybe for your update you send to everybody, we can find out.
That sounds good. So since we're not ready to vote on the policy on individual instruction and the transitional studies policies, I'm going to move to table those for this month and wait for the academic standards committee to get back to us on that. Can I have a motion to table? Jason? Second? John Dana? All in favor? Please raise your card. That's how we're going to tell that you're voting, because it says voting on it, right? Those against? Abstain? All right, the motion passes. So we're going to move on to the policy of general education assurance that Erickson just talked to us about. And the General Education Committee feels good about this policy and confident for it to move on. So I'd like to make a motion to approve a resolution on general education. Who would like to, or wait, I want to move, sorry. Who would like to make a motion? Gordon, second? John, okay, thank you. Those in favor? What?
There is time for discussion
Oh,
now. Can we see it?
back to the motion.
Can we see it?
Sure, hang on a second. Oh, thank you. So we have the redlined version, which is what was requested at the last meeting. So any policy, so everyone is able to see any changes as well as what it was previously. Okay, so there is the motion. Does anyone have any questions or would like to discuss it?
I think if you just scroll, well,
Oh. This, right?
there.
Oh, I was on that. There, make it bigger. So you can see that it's what was taken out. It says the college requires that all students take and successfully complete 2 credit-bearing English courses to acquire minimum reading and writing competency levels. In addition, all students enrolled in any degree program whose placement test scores indicate a need for developmental mathematics must demonstrate proficiency in developmental algebra at the level of mathematics 106 and 102. Scroll
No,
up. Oh, okay. So the new policy states Erie Community College, SUNY Erie, will assure students conferring a degree meet the necessary general education competencies. The college ensures graduates complete these general education competencies by fully satisfying the SUNY Erie institutional learning outcomes within their degree program. These general education competencies align with the standards set by New York State Department of Education, State University of New York System, and Middle States Commission of Higher Education. Greg? No. You got to talk into the microphone.
Oh, I forgot. I sat next to Delaney because the microphone's always on. But I wrote letters to SUNY to get engineering technologies exempt for some of the gen ed competencies.
Joanne?
All of the reason we wanted to change this language is to make it more generalized, and so this language does cover that, because what we're kind of saying, and maybe Erickson can comment too, is that all we're saying is that we are going to abide by the standards approved by SUNY. So whatever gen ed requirements we're required for by SUNY to have is what we're going to abide by. It's kind of like we're almost stating that we're going to do what we were told to do by SUNY in Middle States. So we were approved for lower gen ed requirements for AAS degrees, and we're just stating we're going to abide by those. It's much more evergreen language and broad language than listing specific course numbers and things that was in the last policy.
Erickson, would you like to add?
Sure. And this is really speaking, I would say, more heavily to the middle states requirements that as our institutional outcomes, that every degree program is fulfilling those 8 institutional learning outcomes. So I'd say that that's the primary focus of what's being stated in here.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions about the policy? Greg?
I'm not sure what Erickson just said.
Erickson,
I
can you
got
can you
Joanne.
break it down for me, please?
So you're saying if we,
Hang on, let Erickson answer.
Okay.
Hang on. Okay, can you continue your question, Greg?
my question was, which I thought Joanne answered, is if we got an exemption from SUNY, does that, and you said we do for some of the programs, and she said we do for some of the programs, and then the chair of the social science department over here said, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what he said. So what are you saying?
So all degree programs here at SUNY Erie have to follow according to middle states. This is not SUNY policy, that it fulfills by the time all of our graduates of all of our degree programs are fulfilling all 8 of the SUNY Erie institutional learning outcomes. So that includes your basic communication, quantitative reasoning, information literacy, scientific reasoning, ethics, global perspectives, technological competency, and the one other one that I forget at this moment. Oh yeah, critical analysis and reasoning. How ironic, right? So yeah, that one as well. So that's something that is not a SUNY general education requirement. That's a middle states requirement that is adhered to for every degree program at the institution.
Did he just say that it's required
You have to
by-
be called on by the chair. Yes, Greg?
So is he saying it's required by middle states that requires we follow SUNY, and if we have an exemption by SUNY,
He's saying whatever umbrella the degree program falls under, you have to follow the standards that your degree program says it's going to follow. So we're just saying we're going to follow what we said we're going to follow. And it's written in an evergreen language so that if we change the requirements 2 or 3 years from now, we don't have to change the policy again. So whatever your program's saying, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, it's just confirming it with general terms.
so we have to add gen eds because middle states
No,
wants
no, 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 no.
No.
No, no adding, no changing programs, no.
Okay.
Just making it evergreen. Any other questions? All right, so who would like to make a motion? Oh, that's right, it's on the floor. All right, those in favor. I lost track.
I'm not a vote. I don't know.
I can hear you. I have 4 boys at home. I can hear everything. All right, those against? Abstentions? And the motion passes. I can also talk and hear at the same time. It's like my superpower. All right. So we're going to move on to new business. And so we have some proposed dates. due to the change in the academic calendar. I put them out, actually, well, marketing put it out on the weekly newsletter for me as we changed them, because with the academic calendar change, we can now move the November meeting back to the second Tuesday of the month for November 12th. That's supposed to be a 12th, not a 19. And the April meeting was originally on the 14th, but now that is spring break, so we were proposing changing it to April 7th, the first Tuesday, to not conflict with the break. But then I got a bunch of emails that said that that is CWCC. So I would like everyone to consider these dates. I know it's CWCC, so what would you like to do? Because Eric and I don't want to make the decision for the body on the dates. We just threw 7th on there because we figured easy peasy, but it was not. So I guess what we're really discussing is, do we want April 7th or do we want April 21st? Michael?
I don't think we want to conflict with CWCC, so I propose changing it.
Okay. Does anyone else have an opinion either way? Change it. All right, so I am going to ask for a motion to approve the dates there, changing the 7th to the 21st, which will be the third Tuesday of April after the break. And I figured we would vote on it so then no one can complain later. John Dana. Thank you. Can I have a second? Mary Angela. Any discussion on the dates? It's now or never. This is it. Okay, so there's no discussion on the change. So that's agreement by the body. So we're going to go with that. We don't have to actually vote. Everybody, we're good. Consent, right, of the body. Just write down those keywords. Okay, so those are approved. We have a distance learning steering committee update. Patty Kaiser is going to come up here and give us an update. I'm going to pull it up for you.
Try to blow it up and try to line it up. Yeah, dang it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, this is a housekeeping issue. We've all gotten so good at using Blackboard for all of our stuff that now we have a storage issue. So this is a report that we're going to have to start paying attention to what we're doing, what we're keeping, what we're rolling over, and I am not the tech person, but I am certainly guilty of some of these issues. If we save too much stuff and you roll over your semester to semester and you download your videos, you're just going to be using up way too much memory. It's not like your iPhone where you can just buy more memory on the cloud and make it better. This is just cleaning it up. Most of us don't do this, so let's pay attention to what you're doing. There is a calendar where the instructional design team and the tech people from DL are going to help us go through this. If you have been downloading your videos and storing them on your courses and then rolling them over and copying them every semester, you're going to have a lot of stuff. So in order to not have so much stuff, this is a process of getting some help in cleaning it out. We have instructional designers who are terrific to work with. Any reason you have to go work with them to make your grade book better, to clean it up, to make your courses cleaner, more coherent, are better for the students, and we get some continuity there. Here's our schedule. Eventually, we will not be able to save our videos in our Blackboard. shells, you'll have to put the link in there. This keeps us compliant with ADA. Again, any help you need, go talk to the instructional designers. If you're teaching online, you should have a relationship with the instructional designers anyways. They're super. And they make you look really, really good when you're done with it. Are there any questions with any of this stuff? You've got the least technical person on the team. Go ahead, Erickson, ask me your question. I've got backup in the room.
Is there a way on Blackboard to identify what the file size is?
Yes. And I don't think I have it. Pat, you knew you were
Yeah,
going to be asked that
Pat?
one.
You can get a basic idea of the size of your course by going into packages and utilities, course export, clicking export, and then there's a calculate size button, and it'll give you an approximate size of your course. If you have any concerns or questions about the size of a course, you can certainly email me and I can run a report for you. We've identified all of the courses that don't fit in all of those buckets from this semester. And, you know, after this meeting, the instructional designers will start on the first 17 courses that aren't going to be, start reaching out to faculty on the first 17 courses that aren't going to meet the
Yeah.
1 gigabyte size,
Yeah.
if that helps.
So I'm pretending to export my course. So then, once you get export, you can hit calculate size, and I use 51 megabytes on my online statistics class. So that's how you can tell. Don't ask me what that means.
I, on the other hand, will simply wait for an instructional designer to flag a course if I have things, but since I tend to not store a lot, some of us just use it like a giant virtual file cabinet. You find stuff and you pile it in, and you roll it over, and now I've got 5 sets of women's history with all of the stuff, and I don't need that. I do need to have access to my courses and my students for several years because they have a nasty habit of showing up going like, Ms. Kaiser, I took your course 3 years ago, and can you, oh, okay, I need to go back in and track that. So if we keep this down, you can have access for it. You can have access to it a lot longer, probably longer than we need. And again, the instructional designers will help you. They'll flag you. And we'll get our housekeeping taken care of. Jason?
When you archive a course, does that take it out of that storage, or where does it go when you archive it? In other words, is that part of what we could do?
I'm waiting to be recognized.
Pat?
Basically, what's going to happen is when the course is archived, it'll be taken off the server. However, if you need access to your course, we can, ITS will actually be managing that side of things, but we can actually take the course you need, put it in a shell for you to get what you need out of it. So we'll still have access to all those courses that are over 3 years old. They just won't be at your fingertips in Blackboard. This is actually going to help us. By archiving them, we're going to save a lot of space. My calculation is the first batch of archiving this summer is going to save us 182 gigabytes of space.
Which is what we need to do. I mean, I tend to be a Luddite, and I save everything. I have paper boxes of stuff. So this is my virtual paper box of stuff, and they're going to help me get organized. So, any other questions? No? Okay.
All right.
We're good to go.
Sounds good. Thank you, Patty. And then again, if you're reading this or listening to this on the stream, and all of a sudden later on you're in your online class or even your Blackboard shell for your seated classes, and oh my goodness, I have a question, you can email Pat Ryan, he's the Director of Distance Learning, or the instructional designers directly. Okay, so next up, we have a resolution for academic support services. No, we don't. I think it disappeared somewhere. Hang on a second. Give me a second to pull it back up. So this came from some of our faculty that do student support, and it was brought to the Faculty Caucus of the Senate, back and forth a couple times. We talked about it at the Senate at one point in the spring semester, and a lot of work went into this resolution, and I'm going to call on Andy McGurr to give everyone a little bit of a background, please. Thank you, Andy.
First of all, I did actually send both the chairs a version of this with a rationale and introduction. If you feel like pulling it up, I can. My idea was just to read the darn thing anyways. The rationale.
Cool, do you have it?
Yes.
All right.
It's in the email. But that would be my preference on setting this thing up, because I believe that rationale and introduction does represent our discussions.
Got it. I got it. Hang on. I gotta load it.
No problem.
Yeah, I can't get it. It disappeared on me.
Is it not working? I could just read.
I'm just, yeah. Why don't you start reading it while I'm working on my savviness up here?
Sure, because the whole point of the rationale and introduction is that we need to set up, what this issue was and why it was important in the first place. So in the last few years, SUNY Erie Community College has experienced confusion as to which bodies have purview over academic support services. Tutoring services have been especially contested in that area. In efforts to regulate and standardize work performed in tutoring centers, administrative bodies outside of academic units have attempted to define the name, hours, and responsibilities of tutors. They have also defined how data is collected, and they've even decided what kind of tutors these centers should be staffing. By these actions, administration seeks to increase efficiency, save money, and monitor activities of tutoring staff. Those actions are certainly not malicious in nature. However, academic tutoring services have been overseen by their associated departments for good reasons. The TAs supervising tutoring centers across SUNY Erie's campuses are faculty members of departments in those subject areas. They and the staff under their supervision report to chairs of those departments. This is because the services, the services performed in tutoring centers constitutes the delivery of curriculum insofar as the work done there is an extension of the work performed in the classroom. The work performed in tutoring centers is supplemental instruction, and as such, even though peer tutors may tutor students, their work must be overseen by faculty to ensure quality instruction. Teaching faculty are experts in their fields who perform substantial research into best practice and emergent pedagogies in those fields. They are both the department members who must oversee tutoring centers to deliver curriculum and who are best suited to govern and thus benefit those centers. So one result of the faculty governance of SUNY Erie's tutoring centers has been the professional staffing of adjunct faculty in those support roles in non-instructional hours. In the case of the Writing Center at South Campus, which I here use as an example, there have been many benefits to this professional staffing model. And so I use this paragraph as an example of what we were able to achieve by the purview of academic units over these services. The chiefest of these benefits are the administering of direct one-to-one instruction by real college professors and the retention of adjunct faculty on campus. Retaining adjunct faculty on campus ensures that students receive the amount of support from instructors they require and deserve, since in these support roles, instructors are available outside of class time to workshop assignments and course content. Furthermore, as teaching faculty members of their departments, adjunct faculty can provide one-to-one direct instruction and deliver curriculum in ways peer tutors cannot. Collaborate effectively with the TA overseeing the Writing Center as professional and scholarly peers, foster strong relationships between student and faculty, foster strong communication both intra and interdepartmentally, and encourage other faculty, both part and full-time, to staff their hours in that hub of academic support service delivery. And we have seen that happen in the Writing Center. So, in conclusion, by allowing academics departments to oversee their associated support units, the college ensures the highest quality of service because teaching faculty in those departments are the ones most directly engaged with those disciplines. Prescribing their available hours, staffing models, and their responsibilities hinders, even if unintentionally, the ability of the most qualified academic professionals to deliver curriculum and improve their departments, including the support services under their purview. Labor and academics may be intertwined, but ultimately this issue is not a labor issue. This is an academic issue.
So I need to stop you for a second. You emailed me at 1:51 today.
I sure did.
Right, so I did not read this, and there are issues in your statement that are related to labor and not in this resolution. So you're introducing topics on your 3-page summary that I did not have an opportunity to review before today's meeting that are outside of the resolution.
Okay,
So I'm wondering if we could go back to the resolution and what's written on the resolution and stay away from labor matters, because that is a union issue and not
Sure.
a governance issue.
It's certainly not my intention to get into labor issues. I'm mainly trying to speak about the delivery of curriculum and how departments are able to deliver that curriculum. So it's certainly not my intention to get into any labor issues here.
Okay, so why don't we stick to the resolves?
Sure.
Which are the goals and what we want to accomplish. And I want to say also that everybody does appreciate all of the things that our adjunct faculty and support staff do. And when I sent this out to the faculty caucus of the Senate, I did get many positive emails about it. So, but let's stick to the resolution at hand. So with the resolves, which there are two, these are the things that we're hoping to accomplish with this resolution. Okay, so resolved that the College Senate of SUNY Erie Community College supports the collective governance of academic support services by the faculty and their associated academic units with consultation from their deans. And be it further resolved that decisions about the provision of academic support services should be submitted to appropriate administrative bodies afterwards for review and budgetary approval as the result of careful and insightful research by dedicated educational professionals. Senator McGurk touched on all of these whereas and the reasoning behind them. Can I get a motion? Patty, a second. John Dana. Is there discussion on the resolution, questions for those that wrote it? Joanne?
Yeah, I want some explanation of what the resolved is on. Can you scroll down a little bit? I want to see the language on that. Okay. The second one, resolve decisions about the provision of academic support services should be submitted to, okay, I'm just trying to read it again, afterwards. What, I guess I want clarification on what that resolution is. What does that mean? That decisions about the provision should be submitted afterwards for review. What does that mean?
Andy?
So it means that the department chairs are really the ones overseeing the academic support services associated with their departments. So English oversees the work of English tutoring. Math oversees the work of math tutoring. They make decisions about how those tutoring centers run, and then they submit those to the deans. And then under consultation with those deans, this is a decision that's come from a whole department and is thus submitted to administration for budgetary approval, and those bodies are working together about those decisions.
Greg?
Thanks, Mike. So does the English department and the math department chairs control the English tutoring lab and the math tutoring lab? Is that under their budget?
Not anymore, according to Erica. Michael Delaney?
The respective chairs do supervise the technical assistants who run those centers contractually.
Thank you. Are there other questions about this resolution? Do you need me to scroll up, scroll down? Jason?
Michael, when you say they supervise, does that mean they're setting the tutoring schedules and identifying who's doing the tutoring, vetting whatever tutor? I mean, what does supervise mean?
It's not specifically defined. The contract does say that the chairs supervise the technical assistants in the department. Beyond that, it does not get into specifics.
Patty?
I think the first resolve is pretty clear, and we've covered that. But my friend, I'm not sure I understand the second one. I think I understand the intent that we're doing a flow chart and we want to keep this academic, and the academics do their thing and they talk and they plan, and then they meet with their academic deans and then they move it on. But the language is not a clear chart for me.
Joanne?
And I'll just comment too. So there, yeah, I agree that the language isn't clear on what the flow would be. Background for people that don't know, we have the people that run the learning centers do report to department chairs. There was an addition of a coordinator for tutoring added a few years ago by Rick Wachowski. That person is Julianne Fusani. Her charge right now is to try and coordinate the hours of the tutoring centers, which I think has probably caused some of the concern here. What was found was that the delivery of services varied very drastically from campus to campus. It varied drastically between even semester to semester. There wasn't a lot of consensus among how these centers should be run. So the thought was that there should be some centralized hours, and I think that's where some of this is coming from. And there was also a lot of structural issues with people reporting. We had ISSs working for technical assistants, and they made one salary, and the ISSs made quite a bit more. So the personnel in these centers was really kind of unfair, the reporting structure, so we've tried to fix some of that. But the TAs that run it do report to the department chair, so academics is still very tied to that. I'm a big proponent of that, actually. The only administrative decisions are really have been about the hours, trying to have them be consistent across campuses. So that's my kind of 2 cents on it. And I am the academic administrator that oversees tutoring now.
Thank you. John?
I don't see the need for the second resolve, since I don't even understand it still. And I don't see the need for it.
Okay. Penny?
I was just going to piggyback a little bit on what Joanne said. I think that where some of this conversation came up as we have been going through some of the budget processes and some of the kind of looking at what drives our decision-making, I think some of it was, again, around the hours and what did our students need versus what were we offering.
Okay. Thank you. Andy?
I can respond to that. So one way that that's affected us is that the Writing Center has tried to, at South Campus, build our hours around library hours, because that's where we've positioned ourselves in the hub of research and out of class time work. And for the first couple semesters that we were doing that, it was a really stable setting where people could expect to know when we were going to be there. And since that time, those outside decisions have affected our ability to maintain that schedule. And so it's hurt our ability to deliver that service in a way that students can expect. And we've seen that reported from students since that point. And that's part of this discussion.
Michael Reel?
Would striking that second resolve be considered a friendly amendment and use?
You can make a motion to amend.
Okay, and the procedure for doing it, can we do that now, or do we have to address the motion that's on the floor?
Michael? Other Michael?
A motion to amend is always in order, and...
And we have to vote to accept the...
It would have to be voted to be accepted, yes, correct.
All right. So, Michael Rio, would you like to
Can I
make a
that
motion to amend?
Yes, I would.
What would you like to amend?
Well, I would like to strike that second resolved. Do you need rationalization, or can I comment, or?
I think the body spoke for the rationalization. Would anyone like to second that? All right, John Dana, you're on fire today. All right. Discussion on the motion to amend the current resolution, which is to strike the second resolve. Michael Rio.
I would just want to say that striking that second resolve still establishes that connection that we're trying to make between delivery of curriculum in those academic support centers. So I think that the intent of the resolution remains intact.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion on the amendment? Greg? Hey, he's at 50 years. You can amend that. No problem. All right, any other comments or questions on that? All right, so those in favor of this amended resolution? The amendment. Striking the amendment, sorry, or whatever. Getting rid of this resolve. Those against? Those abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. So we are going to strike that. I'm going to put a period there before someone calls me on it. Okay, so now we have a new amended resolution where the resolve is that the College Senate of SUNY Erie Community College supports the collective governance of academic support services by the faculty and their associated academic units with consultation from their deans. I'm just going to scroll up so people can see the whereas. Bill?
Maybe Joanne can answer this, but does that resolve take into account that there is a specialized individual that has been working on scheduling for these tutoring centers? Because to me, it does not.
Okay, Joanne?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask, it doesn't seem to take into account, and one of the things I'd caution the Senate on is that coordinator of tutoring handles all of the hiring of student tutors, which I can assure you is a large task, a very administratively frustrating task with Workday and HR. So I don't know if that language is striking the existence of that coordinator out or where that coordinator falls. But I very much, I want to say publicly at Senate, I very much agree with and advocated for the continuing of the learning centers reporting through the departments. I feel that connection to academics is key. So there was a proposal at one time to remove it, and I tried to advocate for it to stay in the academic units. But with that said, I would also advocate for this coordinator to just try and keep things consistent and to handle the administrative tasks. Okay.
Derek?
I work with social science tutors and we do the hiring. We do the interviewing and hiring. And then we go to Julie and say, we got a candidate we want to hire. And then we work with her and we do a big chunk of paperwork. And then she sort of guides us through the process. And then we hand it off to her and she takes it from there. So you're right, it is frustrating. It's awful. But she doesn't hire our tutors, we hire our tutors. But what she does do is support us so we can hand off the frustration to Julie instead of doing it ourselves.
Michael?
In my view, that resolved really does not have anything to do with the coordinator one way or the other. Doesn't address the coordinator.
Right, I don't see the coordinator in the resolution. Andy?
I agree with Michael that I don't feel like I don't feel like that resolution really addresses the coordinator. What it does is to try to define the role of teaching faculty in the purview of the support services which constitute the delivery of curriculum within those units.
Okay. Joanne, I saw you with the hand up.
Yeah, I guess I'm not clear either on the role of the teaching faculty. My understanding, and I could be, is the most involvement from the department is typically with the department chair as the supervisor for the learning center. So is the intention to involve the teaching faculty in a unit more in the coordination of it?
Michael?
I would like to mention one thing, which is everybody needs to remember that this is not a legislative body. We do not pass legislation. We make recommendations. Second, the recommendations which about academic matters should be taken very seriously. But we're not legislating anything. We're not telling the academic units what to do. Second of all, I would say that certainly in my department in math at South Campus, there is a lot of communication between the TA who runs the tutoring lab and all of the teaching faculty in the department. He attends our department meetings. He engages in discussions. We give him feedback. He gives a report. Very, very much involved. So that's it.
Thank you. Bill?
So if that's the case, why do we have this? What are we actually asking for? Because in my experience, I have two departments, biotechnology and biology, and both of which the tutors have direct lines to the academic faculty. For instance, just today, I had a tutor gave a review session for 7 of my lab students before their exam. She sat down with me for half an hour asking me exactly everything and double checking her topics list before she ran the review session.
Erica?
So what I'm hearing is there's inconsistency, though, in who's hiring the student tutors, right? Because Derek said you hire student tutors for social science, is that right? Okay. And then we heard from Joanne. Yeah.
All I meant by it is the departments do hire their tutors. Julie,
Okay.
Julie just handles the administrative
Okay.
paperwork like Derek, yeah.
Okay, then I just wanted to make that clear because I was cross-hearing different things. And I think that's part of where this resolution is coming from, is that there seems to be some, what seem like small inconsistencies, but when they're within the department, they become bigger issues, especially if we're dealing with a service department, right? The service departments are gonna have more student tutors, more tutoring needs. And so I know in English, Michael Rio attends our South Campus meetings. He's part of our department. He's included in all that discussion. And so I think that's a lot of where this was coming from.
Patty?
To speak to why we need this, I see this as an affirmation of a relationship. It is not a piece of legislation. It is not a contractual negotiation. This is what we as senators support, that there should be a strong, healthy conversation, relationship between the academics and the discipline and this whole system of tutoring. Many of us work one-on-one with our tutors, some of us may not, but I think this is simply a statement that, we as a Senate say, yes, we think this direction is a good thing, keep doing it.
Fair enough. Greg?
I see the line that says, and who therefore must oversee the delivery of tutoring services. So in our department, we have somebody that teaches surveying. So we're gonna go to that faculty member and say, you have to oversee the surveying part of our tutoring service, or else?
This one. Okay, so I highlighted the phrase. Andy?
Could Michael Delaney just said collectively, and I think that's important. I'd like to ask him maybe to elaborate on that, if he could.
Sure. Michael?
It's the whole academic department that oversees the delivery of tutoring services, not individual specialists. That's all. That's all I meant.
Okay. Joanne?
And in my experience, they do already. I agree with Patty. It's a reaffirmation of the way it's set up. In chemistry, the chair identified a faculty member who was going to be the liaison for tutoring. In math, it's very well linked with the department chairs and the department. I think that this is happening. As Patty said, I see that it's linked by supervision and it's linked by overseeing the delivery of it too. I see it as Patty does too.
Does anyone have a counterpoint for the last couple of statements? Andy?
Only that there has been some contention between administration and departments in our experience as to defining the kind of hours we can run, what our responsibilities are within them, and even the name of the place that we're running, and so I think it's really, this is a discussion about curriculum, and this is a discussion about pedagogy, and where curriculum and pedagogy should be coming from, really.
Okay. Does anyone have a counterpoint on the resolution? Because I think we've all been talking in support of the resolution. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say against the resolution? All right, so there are no more counterpoints. I'm going to close discussion on the matter, and we're going to move to a vote. All those in favor? Those against? Abstentions? And the motion passes. The amended resolution passes, just to clarify. All right, so there was a Faculty Council of Community Colleges plenary, right? No? Yeah, okay, yeah, plenary. Like, am I calling it the right thing? Last weekend, and Jackie Bossman and Michael Delaney went on behalf of SUNY Erie Community College, and they have a couple things they want to talk about to give us an update.
Oh, definitely less than 5 minutes. Hi, as you probably all know, and I always reiterate this, I have been the delegate to the Faculty Council of Community Colleges for the past 17 years, and this is a governance organization. It has nothing to do with my union work whatsoever, and maybe I should stop saying that, because every time I say that, people think that it really does. So, resolutions that are coming through. I know you're timing me, I can see. There's going to be a resolution that has passed about forming an advisory group with wide representation, including faculty representation from both the state ops and the community colleges, on SUNY Online. You'll get a lot more detail about this next time when I give the full report from the plenary. There was a resolution passed about gender inclusivity, which specifically asked SUNY and all of the colleges to provide a non-binary option in terms of...
It's not me.
It's not yours?
It's not me.
It's not mine. Okay. In terms of identifying gender rather than just the male-female choices. Also, resolution on supporting the funding model for community colleges, where there is a 100% from last year floor and an increase in FTE reimbursement if the college actually has an increase in enrollment, which is consistent with what SUNY, the trustees, the presidents, NYSET, and many other organizations are all asking for. There is going to be a resolution, there has been a resolution on faculty representation on presidential searches, and also another one on faculty representation on searches for upper-level administrators. And we have a position paper that we passed on the role of campus governance in campus partnerships, shared services, and consortia. And that's all I got now, but you'll get a lot more detail next time. Did I do it?
You got 2 minutes to spare. You should mark it down. All right. And some of those resolutions, we've seen similar resolutions in the past, like with the funding and what we're asking and what we're going to be advocating for the college. We've seen gender exclusivity, but it's going to expand on that. And then we've talked about SUNY Online briefly. So as we're getting more details from the state, we're getting more information that we can get out to everybody else.
Oop, I'm sorry, I forgot one. Child care funding. Resolution for increasing child care funding, and that one and the one about the funding model, we are asking for campus endorsement. So we're going to be asking for a campus vote on those. Of course, this body can vote on the other ones to endorse them too if it wants.
Yep.
All right.
Oh, thank you. And we've voted on that before, because as we know, as a community college, many of our students are working adults and they have children. So childcare is a barrier to attendance. So that's something else that we've discussed on the floor before and endorsed. Okay, so I didn't put it on there, but Does anybody have any other new business? Jason?
I just have a question, because I've heard numbers all over the place, varying from 5 to 10 to 20. I was wondering if we have a final number on what the drop in enrollment was coming into fall, and if there is a target percentage of, sort of, not target, but a projected decline in enrollment that we should be planning for spring. I just haven't been able to get a number from anybody, and do we not have it? Is that?
I'll ask Steve.
We're still in the process of finalizing the numbers yet, so we'll be able to report them at a later date.
Great, thank you. Greg?
As a representative of people in my
Talk in the microphone.
domain- Oh, I forgot. And by the way, that was my backup phone. But the first week of school, we ran out of dry erase markers, black cartridges for the printer, and paper. And we've run out of paper every single week. One of a contractor that I know went to a bid opening at the Rath Building, and they have to do some work in the basement. So one of the things they have to include in their estimate is to move the mountains of paper that they have in the basement of the Rath Building. It just seems like we can't get enough paper. Just today, I was given an exam, and the exam, I cut the number of pages by 2, so there's 2 less pages in the exam, and still there's no paper. I went to the paper machine, there's no paper. I went to the cabinet, there's no paper. I went to the labs where the students print stuff, and there's no paper. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Are you
how to
asking
even
for an
address this.
update?
Yeah, give me an update.
I'm going to call on Penny, please.
Are you asking for an update on whether we actually have paper or not? Because we do have paper. I think what we are still working with the deans on is coordinating how that paper moves from central supply to the units, to the departments, because we don't want to be managing paper. We want to ensure everyone has what they need, but we also need to ensure that we are managing our resources in particularly carefully in this fiscal year as we are kind of rotating and rethinking how we leverage our funds, trying to make sure that we're focused on students and academics more than having paper and supplies kind of sitting all over the place. So we do have a committee that is working with the academic side of the house. We are looking at centralizing the procurement to get some efficiencies in how much this costs us to do, because having it broken out across the schools costing us more money, and then streamlining the process by which you guys can order the basic supplies and the paper and all of that throughout the course of this year. We should be rolling out kind of that first initial framework of it around January.
Greg, did that help answer your question?
No. So that means in January, we might start getting some paper?
I
Wait.
think that's speculation,
So.
that it's
when-
January.
When they cut down the number of printers, there's one printer for the whole office suite. I was assured we would not run out of black cartridge. Of course, we did. So are we looking at that too? But it seems to me that we're being told how to teach by the amount of paper we can use. And it's happening to you guys online if we now have a cloud that only accepts so much. You cut down the size of the cloud, well, okay, then you cut down the size of your videos, whatever you load. It seems like the administration is trying to control us in what we do.
Thank you, Greg. Alonda?
I just wanted to, I guess, pose the question to Penny. One of the concerns that I was hearing at City Campus was that students weren't able to print at any location. And so I do know the logistics, well, I don't know, but I can gather that the logistics behind the scenes are crazy and trying to balance budgets and things of that nature. However, if we have asked the students to pay for paper and the use thereof, then we cannot ban their use. And then in order to support our faculty, we have to make sure that they are adequately equipped to provide the students that need tangible materials. Some students need to actually touch paper. That's the style that they're used to learning. I know we're trying to transition them to online learning. However, we do have to make sure that those needs are addressed somewhat, I guess, as soon as possible. Thanks.
Would you like to respond?
Certainly. Just to be clear, there's no banning of students being able to print. If there's an issue and they don't have paper in the labs, then we need to understand kind of who's in charge of the labs so that we can start to work with them to ensure we keep paper appropriately in there. If they're having problems printing to devices that they should be able to access, then we just need a work order put in to make sure that those kinds of issues are addressed. Again, there's a lot of kind of work going on behind the scenes to try to make sure that we're managing our resources within the funds that we have available and trying to ensure that the spending that we do, all right, that's a horrible sentence, that, that we do accomplish is as efficient and directed at the students and the academics as possible.
Okay, great, thank you. Linda?
I'm just wondering if administration has a policy where they want to discourage paper, possibly? Because I know, like at UB, the students are expected to print everything. Everything's online, and they're expected to print, if they want, the notes from the instructors. So I'm just wondering, is that what, is there a push to have students do that kind of thing? That they print instead of the teachers printing materials?
Well, I can tell you from a personal perspective, I post everything myself online, including my syllabus, to be green. And also because I've ran into problems in the past where you hand out the syllabus and, then it ends up in a book bag and then it's in the back of a car and then it gets thrown out in January. So I don't think it's a mandate or a policy. I think it's a personal preference among instructors. Andy?
Similarly, in my classes, I take a vote at the beginning of the semester of who has a laptop or a tablet that they can use in class to pull up such documents, and it's overwhelming majority every single time. And so I've been finding, this is again a personal experience thing, that I can make like 5 copies of something and cover the rest of the class with it.
Greg?
You can't make copies if there's no paper in the printers.
Is there anything anyone else would like to talk about besides paper? I think we do hear you loud and clear, and unfortunately, this body does not have the authority to enforce or et cetera, paper. But it is duly noted, the administrators in the room that can assist with that heard it loud and clear. So I'd like to move on from paper. Joanne.
Could I just make one quick thing, the constant paper thing? I had a conversation with one of my chairs, and he was under the assumption it was a requirement to print syllabi. And so we had a discussion, and I said to him that I would make a comment at Senate that I don't believe it's a requirement to provide printed syllabi, that it's up to the instructor whether they want to just post it on Blackboard, they want to just hand it out, or they want to do both. But that if instructors choose, especially in the new syllabus template, is lengthy, it's a lot of paper, a lot of formatting going on. So if instructors can and are willing to just post it online, it might save some paper.
Yeah, it is, the only requirement is to supply.
Right.
The modality in which you supply is not required, as long as you supply it. And one other thing as far as putting it on Blackboard. If you put it as a PDF, then it becomes ADA compliant. So that means our students who are not going to be able to read the paper copy anyway will have an accessible document. It is 3:56. We are 4 minutes under. I'll see you in November on the 12th. Thank you, everybody, for a great meeting.